A young man tired of his job writes a list of all the things he intends to do before humanity is wiped out in a zombie apocalypse. We are in the anime Zom 100, Bucket List of the Dead, first season, episodes 1, 2 and 3. Akira Tendo is a young Japanese man addicted to zombie movies and games. Every night when he gets home from work, he spends several hours trying to distract himself from his reality, as he hates his life and especially his job. His house is extremely dirty and he sleeps among countless bags of garbage. 3 years ago, when he graduated from college, Akira was hired by a large multinational company and was very excited to join his first job. When he met his coworkers, the young man felt very welcomed, as everyone seemed to be happy and acted like a family. As his boss introduces the office, Akira meets Miss Saori Otori and falls instantly in love. Like all his coworkers, the beautiful young woman was very receptive to him, which made Akira feel even luckier to have gotten that job. After working hours, all the employees go out to dinner together at a restaurant and Akira takes the opportunity to strengthen some bonds. While he's eating, the young man can't stop looking at Saori and begins to have a platonic crush on her. However, after dinner, as Akira prepares to leave, he finds that he will have to return to the office, as will all his colleagues. The reality about working in his dream company is quite different from what he imagined, and on his very first day he had to stay overnight in the office. The next morning, the young man is still sitting at his desk and works all day again. 2 days later, he was finally able to return home and was completely exhausted. After a few hours of sleep, Akira had to get up to start his exploration routine once again. In his second year of work, his health also began to deteriorate and he no longer had the strength to do anything but work. His only joy and motivation was Miss Saori, who despite living for many years in that hostile environment, managed to maintain her sweetness and kindness. Despite being extremely passionate about her, Akira never had the courage to expose his feelings, as the young woman was having a secret affair with his boss. In his third year of work, the young man no longer saw color in his life and walked the streets like a zombie because his body was no longer functioning as it should. One night, while at home watching TV, Akira falls asleep asking not to wake up the next day. However, to his chagrin, his cell phone wakes him up and he has to get up once again. When he leaves the house, the young man realizes that he has forgotten to pay for the parking of his bicycle and walks to the landlord's house to settle his debt. When he gets there, he sees the man lowered to the ground and it takes him a few seconds to realize that the man is devouring the body of his own wife. Terrified, the young man must flee to avoid becoming the next victim and soon discovers that all his neighbors have been turned into zombies. So he climbs the stairs until he reaches the terrace and, while being chased, he can see that chaos has broken out all over the city. At this point, Akira realizes that since zombies are all over the place, he won't have to go to the office ever again. Instead of worrying about the future of humanity, the young man feels relieved and celebrates being free from that hellish place. Immediately, the colors invade his world again and his energy is completely renewed, as if he had just been reborn. For Akira, the end of the world is nothing more than an excuse to get rid of the work that was consuming all his vitality. Until the day before, the young man saw the world in monochrome, enveloped by a dark cloud, but now he can see and appreciate the beautiful colors of nature. As he gazes at the beautiful blue sky, Akira wonders what the first thing he will do now that he no longer has to go to the office. After thinking about numerous possibilities, the young man decides that he will start his vacation at home, drinking beer while marathoning his favorite movies. But before he does, he needs to find out if Miss Saori is okay and quickly pedals to his beloved's house. On the way, Akira discovers that the situation is worse than he could have imagined. In just one day, most of the inhabitants of his town have been transformed, but that doesn't stop him from reaching Saori's building. After checking the company's records, the young man finds his coworker's apartment. However, when he opens the door, he discovers that the young woman has a visitor and finds his boss transforming right in front of him. As he watches the man he hates most mutate, Akira takes the opportunity to say everything he hasn't had the courage to say in recent years. The young man says that the endless hours of work have destroyed him and made him forget the beauty of life. However, from now on, Akira is free to make his own choices and decides to resign. After removing his tie, he attacks his zombie boss and throws him out of the window. He then goes to check if Saori is okay and, to his chagrin, discovers that the young woman has also been infected. When he realizes that he has lost all chances to live that love, the young man starts crying and gathers courage to declare himself. But now, his words have no effect and all he can do is escape the clutches of the woman he was completely in love with. As night falls, Akira finds a convenience store and enjoys a beer while thinking about all the things he would like to do before he perishes. At this point, he has the idea to use a notebook to write a list with 100 activities. This simple attitude is actually a great luxury, because at the company where Akira worked, employees were required to come to the office even on days when they were sick. Even now that he no longer has to go to work, the young man has nightmares about his old job and wakes up scared. But when he realizes that those traumatic days are behind him, he walks out onto the balcony and celebrates the start of a new morning. Upon realizing what a dump his house has become, Akira separates all the waste into bags and discards the garbage bags out the window. On his second day of vacation, he takes the opportunity to clean his entire apartment and turn it into a cozy place, since he plans to spend a lot of time there to rest. Now that the place is habitable again, Akira intends to prepare something to eat, but when he opens the fridge, the young man realizes that it is empty. So he decides to have a can of beer while watching the news. On TV, aerial footage of Tokyo shows that fires are raging everywhere and zombies have taken over the city. Even the newspaper's recording studio is being invaded by the infected employees themselves, and soon everyone will turn into the undead. It has been 2 days since the infection started spreading, and so far the Japanese government has not commented on the case. Still, Akira shows no concern and intends to stay at home drinking beer until things are back to normal. However, when he opens the fridge, he realizes that he has just drunk his last can and now needs to go out to buy more. The problem is that his building is surrounded by creepy zombies, so Akira will have to find a way to get down without being attacked. In the building next door, there is still a couple of survivors who have already realized that neither the police nor the armed forces will show up to help them. Because of this, they give in to despair, and the woman is terrified when she realizes that there are monsters outside trying to break down the door of her house. While on the balcony looking for a way to escape, her husband spots Akira trying to climb down the pipes and they both start screaming. Startled, Kusaka goes to see what's going on, and the young man explains that the stairwell in his building was overrun with zombies, so he had to arrange an alternative route down. After picking up his bike, the young man realizes that there are now even more monsters scattered around the street and he needs to pedal quickly to avoid being caught by them. When he arrives at the nearest supermarket, the young man is caught by a camera that is attached to another bicycle and, without realizing that he is being filmed, quickly enters the store. As he walks towards the freezer, he spots a beautiful young woman and realizes that she is also shopping to survive the apocalypse. At this point, Akira approaches her amicably and tries to make conversation, but Shizuka ignores him. The young man claims that if they team up, they will have a better chance of survival, but the young woman has no interest in allying herself with someone who risks his life to buy beers instead of just carrying the essentials. Suddenly, some zombies manage to enter the supermarket and Akira rushes to protect Shizuka. However, the young woman pulls on his coat, at which point she prevents the young man from being hit by a truck that suddenly bursts into the store. After saving him, Shizuka picks up her shopping baskets and leaves. When Akira gets up to thank her, he realizes that his bike has been crushed by the truck and he has to find another way home. While being chased by one of the monsters, he finds a scooter and hitches a ride on the vehicle. This way, the young man is able to get around faster than if he were using his bicycle. On the way, he finds a beautiful motorcycle and decides to upgrade it, which allows him to dodge zombies more easily. Upon arriving home, Akira parks his motorcycle and climbs the pipes of the neighboring building to deliver some items he brought for the couple. However, upon arriving at their apartment, the young man realizes that the house has been invaded and his neighbors have been attacked. Frustrated, the young man spends the rest of the day drinking beer while following the news. That evening, he decides to add the first items on his list. Among the 100 things Akira would like to do before he turns into a zombie are: take a 3-year vacation to have as much fun as possible, visit his parents, see his best friend and meet the woman of his dreams. A few kilometers away, Shizuka lives. Unlike Akira, now that the apocalypse has begun, she has an even stricter routine than usual. Shizuka wakes up at 6 a.m. and does her morning cardio while watching the news for updates on the contamination. After breakfast, the young woman takes her vitamins and tries to contact her company's central office in Los Angeles for help. However, internet and telephone signals have been cut off and there is no longer any way to communicate from a distance. Faced with this situation, the girl creates a spreadsheet to manage the resources she needs to look for to survive as long as possible. In order to gain knowledge about those monsters, Shizuka watches countless movies and observes that some zombies are slow while others can move faster. So she comes to the conclusion that if she can identify both types, her chance of survival will increase significantly. So the young woman takes her bike and attaches a camera so she can collect data while she goes out to get supplies. After picking up all the items on her list, Shizuka passes by a shelf full of candy and is tempted to grab one of them. However, she has decided to reduce her sugar intake to stay healthy now that the hospitals are not running and chooses not to take any sweets. Through her cell phone, the girl manages to follow the images captured by her camera and realizes that a young man is approaching the store. When Akira finds her, Shizuka has already detected his presence and remains calm as she realizes that he is not infected. Noticing that some zombies are approaching, she hurries to grab the last items on her list and, before she leaves, hears the sound of a horn. Worried that this sound might attract even more monsters, Shizuka checks her camera footage again and discovers that a runaway truck is heading towards the supermarket. The young woman then begins to talk to Akira in order to attract the creatures and pulls the young man moments before the vehicle invades the establishment, eliminating all the zombies that were in its path. After getting everything she needs, Shizuka returns to her home and goes to analyze the behavioral patterns of the zombies she managed to film. On her computer, there is a list of the 100 things Shizuka needs to do to avoid becoming a zombie, and she intends to follow each one to the letter. Still in the city of Tokyo, Sho works as a manager of a restaurant and has had to shelter in the establishment along with customers and employees since the zombie apocalypse began. He is trying to reassure a little girl who has just lost her parents when he discovers that new creatures are approaching the restaurant and he has to go out with a group of men to eliminate them. During the battle, many of his allies were eliminated and others were infected, but Sho is still willing to do whatever it takes to stop the zombies from overrunning the place. Now that he's got a new bike, Akira rides around the streets oblivious to the monsters. Although he is seeing the end of the world before his eyes, there is no doubt that this is one of the best phases of his life and he intends to live it intensely. A few hours earlier, the young man had just stepped out of the shower when he realized that the internet was working again. While reading some old messages that he never had time to answer, Akira finds Kensho's number in his address book. At that very moment, his friend is trapped inside a hotel room with his zombie girlfriend while slowly dying as he doesn't have the courage to face the dozens of monsters waiting for him in the hallways. After drinking his last sip of water, he realizes that his body is already weakened, as he has not eaten for 3 days. Still, Kensho would rather perish of starvation than turn into a zombie. When he decides to give up fighting and accept his own elimination, his phone rings and Akira is relieved to find that his best friend from college is still alive. At that moment, Kensho says where he is and Akira says he will rescue him. Concerned for his friend's safety, the young man says it is impossible to leave that place without being attacked, but the young man assures him that he will find a way to get in there. On the way to the hotel, Akira remembers that, unlike him, Kensho was outgoing and very successful with women during college. But despite this, he was a great friend and always went out of his way to make the people around him smile. When he graduated, Kensho became an investment broker and went on to make a lot of money. The two friends met only once in the last 3 years and the young man seemed to be very happy with his job. In addition, he was dating a beautiful model, with whom he said he was completely in love. Meanwhile, Akira was being exploited at the company where he worked and every day he saw the woman he was in love with going out with his boss. However, when Kensho suggested he quit his job, Akira was overcome with envy and decided to leave so he wouldn't have to listen to his friend's success stories. After a long battle, Sho becomes the only survivor of his group and ends up being surrounded by a horde of zombies. The young man is proud of his performance and accepts his elimination with his head held high, knowing that he did his best in battle. However, before the monsters could reach him, they are attracted by a distant noise and Sho manages to survive. Just then, the creatures in the hotel also walk towards the noise and crowd around a car that has its horn on. When he realizes his plan has worked, Akira climbs out of the water and sees the vehicle exploding with zombies. Noticing that the corridors are empty, Kensho plucks up the courage to leave the room and, minutes later, is met by his friend. Immediately, Akira starts crying and asks for forgiveness for not listening to the young man when he advised him to resign. When he remembers that day, Akira is ashamed that he felt jealous of his friend instead of taking his advice. After hearing the apology, Kensho says he needs to tell the truth, but is interrupted when a horde of zombies approaches. Quickly, the duo climbs the stairs and arrives on the terrace of the building. At this point, they are chased by the monsters and use some rubble to block the door. However, the youngsters know that very soon the creatures will manage to get in and the only way out is to jump to the building next door. So Akira sets out to be the first to jump and then asks Kensho to go after him. But the young man is paralyzed with fear and says he can't jump. Before he perishes, Kensho states that he wants to tell the truth and says that despite being successful, he hated his job and was not happy in any of his relationships. In tears, the young man says that it is he who should apologize for having bragged so much when, deep down, he hated his own life. Finally, Kensho reveals that his real dream has always been to be a comedian, as he loves to make people smile. When he hears this confession, Akira encourages his friend to follow his dream and affirms that, even now, he can become anything he wants. Inspired by the young man's words, Kensho is moved by an impulse of courage and, just as he was about to be reached by the zombies, he decides to jump. During the jump, Kensho takes off his clothes and provokes a fit of giggles from Akira, who can't help himself. However, before he reaches the building next door, the young man ends up falling and needs his friend's help to get up. The sun has already set, so the pair decide to spend that night on the terrace and make a fire to warm themselves while eating the food Akira has brought in his backpack. At this point, the young man accomplishes one more item on his list, as he has spent the entire evening having fun with his best friend. Will Akira be able to fulfill all his dreams before he turns into a zombie? What are the 3 things you would like to do during an apocalypse? So, what did you think of this anime? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like it and subscribe for more anime recaps. See you next time.